If you're a Panthers fan or a Texans fan, perhaps a Lions fan, you've probably given the question, is Bryce Young better than CJ Stroud? CJ Stroud better than Bryce Young? You've probably given some form of that question some thought. And the point of this video is to, well, try to give it some answers. So, with that being said, let's just get right into it. Let's start off by talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide's reigning Heisman winner, Bryce Young. The first thing that stands out to me when I watch Bryce Young is this is the worst Bama team that we have seen in a while, man. When you look at big boards, you can see that there aren't any Alabama wide receivers that are going to go in the first two rounds of this draft, all right? There aren't any Alabama tackles that are going in the first two rounds of this draft, all right? And that is unusual for them. I mean, you watch this Texas game, and Young is under pressure and getting killed over and over and over again. And while that may not be good news for Alabama fans, and maybe not good for Bryce Young this year, it does make his evaluation a lot easier because we get to actually see him put an offense on his back and try to create when his supporting cast isn't like a bunch of NFL Pro Bowlers everywhere, as is usually the case with Alabama and Ohio State quarterbacks these last couple years. This play is incomplete, but I really think it does a good job illustrating how much he elevates the offense, okay? On this play, he wants this dig route to the tight end, okay? It's third down, by the way, so he wants to throw it past the sticks. So here comes the tight end breaking inside on the dig, and this safety comes down and drives on it, taking it away. Now, once that safety drives down, you could say, all right, well, take the deep shot. And you could if you had crazy arm strength, but if you don't, and I don't think Bryce Young does, this is probably just a jump ball about 50 yards down the field, not a high percentage play. So what does he do? He scrambles out towards the sideline. You've got the tight end moving that way. You've got this guy moving that way too, trying to get some separation. Maybe he can hit something on the run, rolling out of the pocket. But this safety drives down to take away the tight end past the sticks, and this is all covered up. He's got a free rusher now. A lot of quarterbacks would just try to tuck this and get what they can around the corner where they would probably be caught by any of these linemen, or just throw it away to protect the field position and try to make the punt a little bit easier. But what Bryce Young does is he jukes out this defensive lineman, right? He puts his hand on the ground, changes direction on a dime, bang, makes the guy miss. Because this safety has driven down on this tight end, that leaves a big void in behind him. And now you've got this wide receiver in scramble drill mode working into that vacated zone. Bryce Young is busy juking someone out right now, but as soon as he pops up, as soon as his head gets up, he reads the field and sees that's available to him. And immediately he loads up and makes that throw. No hesitation there, and it's a great throw that's dropped. Okay, we'll see it from the end zone angle. Set, hut. All right, looking at that dig, nothing there. All right, we're going to try to get something towards the sideline. Nothing there. Make a guy miss. Eyes pop up. See it. Make the throw. Bang. And this should have been caught. This is a catch that needs to be made. It's a little bit difficult, yes, but every wide receiver is kicking themselves if they can't come down with that. Just because he's diving doesn't mean it's an uncatchable ball. Very good ball from Bryce Young. He is just so quick in a couple different areas. He's quick to react to the stimuli around him, and he's just a quick mover, okay? In this play in the red zone, the first thing he wants to do is throw to number 11 here, who is settling down. Right here he tries it, but here comes this defender ready to jump it. That could get picked. Okay, I'm going to pull it back down. Now the A-gap is opened up. Wonderful. I'm just going to run through there. Thanks, Bryce Young. There he goes, but then there's a swim move by this defensive tackle. He's going to close that gap. Bryce Young sees that immediately, and he's like, never mind. We're going to turn our back to the defense and run outside the pocket. Okay. But as usual, his eyes end up getting downfield. He is so good at, even when he is creating scrambling run around, he is aware of what's happening down the field, okay? Here comes this receiver going across the field. There's no one there. There's a throw to be made. The problem is he's about to get killed by these three guys. So he has to flip his hips and then make this throw in the time that this dude can run like 3 yards. And he's able to do it. Flips his hips, makes that throw while getting hit. And it's perfect. Bang. Touchdown. All right. A little bit later, Texas is going to dial up a blitz that is a little bit exotic. You've got the outside cornerback, the boundary cornerback that you can't really see right now. He's going to come off the edge, and then you've got a delayed blitz from this linebacker. And what these two motions are designed to do is move Bryce Young to his left, where it's harder for right-handed quarterbacks to throw from, and where all of these defensive linemen are crashing. They're all rushing that way. And they're trying to scare Bryce Young into all that pressure. But Bryce Young, as soon as he gets the ball, checks right, see his eyes, look over there. He sees that outside blitz coming. Okay, timer's going off. He's got to get rid of the ball. But instead of being scared and just running away from it, drifting away from it like Texas wants him to do, he drifts towards it into this new pocket, all right? And he's got time to throw. Now, this corner does bully the running back into him, so he steps up, right, into the face of pressure from this delayed blitz from the linebacker. He knows he's going to take a hit. He doesn't care. He steps up anyway and delivers a throw behind the pressure into this vacated space, hits that dig in stride, perfect placement, allows the wide receiver to pick up a little bit more yards after catch. Very good stuff. He's a very brave, tough guy, and you see that on this throw here. And then on Alabama's game-winning drive, Texas dials up another corner blitz, and this time the running back doesn't even bother to pick it up. He just goes out into the route. So this corner has an absolutely free shot on Bryce Young. But what does Bryce Young do? He doesn't care. He just ducks. And if his knees hit the ground, remember, he's down in college, and this is a sack. But they don't. Just pops back up as calm as can be, as slowly as can be. And he's not panicked. He's just kind of like, still scanning the field, still looking downfield. Can I make a throw? No. All right, we'll just tuck it and run. Make this field goal an absolute gimme. Win the game for my team. Overall, it's pretty tough to poke holes in Bryce Young's game. He's not as accurate as CJ Stroud, but his ball placement at all three levels of the field is pretty good. Sometimes he'll try to fade away off his back foot and miss because he's short, but usually it's pretty good. And for a smaller guy, I don't even think he's necessarily bad at accessing the middle of the field. Here he's going to look off the linebacker. You see this dude over on the right-hand side of your screen get influenced by his eyes here. And then this tight end cuts inside, and then his eyes find that tight end. He throws it over Jordan Davis, a pretty big dude, and then makes a nice throw in the red zone, over the middle of the field, over some defenders, and hits him right in the hands, but he can't quite come down with it. Not Bryce Young's fault, though. Now, everyone in the pre-draft process is going to comp Bryce Young to Kyler Murray, which is a little fair, but there are two key differences. The first one is Bryce Young's arm talent is not like Kyler's. Kyler can throw it like 50 yards with a flick of the wrist. Bryce's arm talent is fine, but it's not elite like Kyler. And the other difference is their body type. You may think it's exactly the same because they're both short, but Bryce Young is not as built as Kyler Murray is, all right? I think Bryce Young is a little bit on the skinnier side. Like, Kyler Murray might be short, but the dude is big, all right? The dude is built. Same thing with Russell Wilson. Like, that is a short dude, but that is a stocky-ass dude as well. Bryce Young is not built like that. Is Bryce Young, who is probably 5'11", under 200 pounds, and he plays with a pretty reckless style that gets him hit hard a lot, is he going to be able to hold up for 17 games every season? I've seen Kyler Murray deal with injuries so far. Russ doesn't really, but that guy is built like Aaron Donald. Zach Wilson is also, I think, a quarterback a little bit on the smaller side, at least in terms of like stature. He's dealt with some injuries. Is Bryce Young just going to be able to stay healthy with his frame? That is my biggest question. But overall, I'm a huge fan of his intangibles, his pocket presence, his ability to always keep his eyes up and remain calm even when bullets are flying and he's scrambling around, his competitive toughness, his ability to stand in there, his willingness to take a hit. It's great. His leadership seems amazing. He's been hurt these past couple weeks, which is a concern, but the way he has been mentoring and coaching the backup has been apparent even when you're just watching the broadcasts, him talking to the backup on the camera and all of that. He has traits, mental traits, that I am sure will translate to the next level. And the way that he is carrying this offense right now, that's a guy I'm ready to ride or die for. That's a guy I want on my football team. It's a cliche, but I really just kind of think this dude is a warrior, even if he isn't this crazy freak athlete like Kyler was or even Russell Wilson was. All right, enough about him. Let's talk about C.J. Stroud from Ohio State. C.J. Stroud can be a bit tough to evaluate because the supporting cast is just so damn good sometimes. Like, you give these wide receivers one-on-ones, they're probably winning that matchup and being wide open. Like, Stroud lost Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, two top 15 picks in the entire draft, and he still has this dude, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Jackson Smith-Njigba, who I already did a whole video about and I think is very good. However, you can't just write him off as someone carried by his supporting cast when his numbers are this good. Like, he surpassed any season that Fields had in his first year as a starter, and he's playing even better so far this year. The biggest thing that I like about CJ Stroud is when he can throw with touch, the guy just does not miss. Here, there's a rusher in his face. He kind of has to throw off his back foot a little bit from an unsettled platform. And, I mean, this is just gorgeous. Right in the bucket on the sideline. Stroud's placement on these vertical routes is just unreal. He doesn't miss on these. I mean, seriously, if you look at throws marked as fades or goes, any kind of 9 route, Stroud's numbers were just ridiculous last year. A 64% completion percentage on those throws. Almost 90% were catchable for 20 yards per attempt, throwing touchdowns on nearly half of them without an interception. Just crazy stuff. And like this year, those numbers are not quite as good as he's thrown 12 of them, but they're still ridiculous across the board. When Stroud has time to really set up and throw, his placement is as good as anyone's has ever been. All right, his accuracy is crazy. On this play, it looks like Tampa 2. You've got the 2 deep safeties, and then you've got this linebacker getting depth and trying to be the middle hole here. And you've got to throw this. If you put too much air under it, the safety will have time to drive down and make a play. But if you make it too flat, this dropping linebacker can reach up and get his hands on it. And Stroud just places this absolutely perfectly to hit Jackson Smith-Njigba in stride. I mean, this does not get any better. The window does not get any smaller. And while I don't think he's near the escape artist that, Bryce Young is, in this Notre Dame game when he was on the move, he was still delivering dimes on the run. There are some positives and some negatives on this play. Anytime that you get a cover 2 look like this, it's possible to hit a hole shot on a vertical route here, and that is arguably open at the top of the screen right here. And Stroud is looking at it, thinking about pulling the trigger, and he doesn't. Now, if he were to get sacked here while being indecisive on this play, then I would say it's just a negative. But he's getting pressure from his blind side here, and just as he's about to get sacked, he rolls out, avoids that, and finds a different pass and picks up a decent chunk of yardage here. You'll see it again from the end zone angle. Looking at that whole shot, maybe, rolls out and then finds another option. So definitely, if he hit the whole shot, that would be sick. But this is pretty cool too. And here's another play from that Notre Dame game, making plays outside of the pocket. Here they're running just mesh, pretty common concept. And he reads this out just like you're supposed to. First, you're going to check this wheel route to the running back. Someone picks him up. Okay, so let's read the middle of the field. It's kind of a mess there. Now 99 is getting some pressure. Once again, he turns his back to the defense. Not the fastest dude in the world, but is able to outrun that edge rusher. And then under pressure, he's able to locate number 3 on the sideline here. And then make this throw where only his wide receiver can get it on the sideline. Really no chance of this getting picked off. Receiver makes a nice catch on the sideline there, getting both feet in bounds, and they pick up this first down. We're talking about a guy who's maintained a sack rate below 3% so far in his career. You look at Justin Fields, right? His sack rate, which has been a problem in the NFL, was up around 7. Also, in case you were wondering, Bryce Young has halved his sack rate, going from 6% to about 3% this year, despite the leaky offensive line. So he's good in that area as well. Now, much like Bryce Young, I don't think that he has a bad arm, but it's definitely closer to NFL average than Josh Allen or Justin Herbert, right? On this play, he's sliding to his left. You've got JSN running this dig over the middle. He's really going to try to drive that thing in there. And then this ball dies about halfway there, and JSN has to pick it up off the dirt and can't quite do it. Maybe Josh Allen isn't the best example to use for arm strength because he's just the gold standard, but he just does such a great job illustrating what I'm looking for when it comes to these types of throws, okay? So on this play, Stefon Diggs is just going to run a little hitch, and Allen is going to fake it to him to influence this safety to come down and really drive on this. Then you've got a corner route in behind him, and then Allen is flat-footed, just going to hit that hole shot, right? He's not really going to step into this, and this is just on a line right over the outstretched hands of that corner. And then you watch Stroud attempt a very similar throw, and you notice it just doesn't quite look the same, right? And just like Allen, he's flat-footed when he has to throw this because there's a little bit of pressure in his face. But remember with Allen, that ball just ever so nicely cruised an inch above the outstretched hands of the underneath defender and then just landed right in the hands of his wide receiver. But because Stroud can't really drive it in the same way, this ball flutters, and not every overthrow is the result of too much arm strength. Sometimes, like in this case, it's too little, and it floats above the wide receiver because he can't quite drive it in like Allen can, and the defensive back makes a play on it. And again, his arm still meets the certain threshold that you need to be an NFL quarterback, but he's just not someone who like is going to fade away off his back foot under pressure and still throw the most beautiful pass you've ever seen in your life, like someone like Aaron Rodgers can, all right? And that can be something that separates a good quarterback from an MVP one. I think if I had to compare CJ Stroud to a current quarterback, it would be Geno Smith the way he's playing right now, and that's not a very sexy comparison, but Geno has been really accurate. I think leading the league in completion percentage, and he's been pushing the ball down the field too a little bit. Like his accuracy has been really impressive this year. And I think of him as more of a traditional pocket passer and kind of a system-y guy, but I mean, he can move around a little bit. He can make plays with his legs, and so can Stroud, a little bit more than I think he lets on sometimes. When I look at his height, weight, body type, functional athleticism, again, Geno doesn't have the arm strength that his backup Drew Lock has, but it certainly passes certain thresholds to be good enough. The accuracy, I don't think it's an unfair comparison, and I don't think it would be play that you would be disappointed in from any quarterback the way Geno's playing right now. He's at the top of the league in a lot of advanced metrics. Seahawks offense is playing pretty well right now. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Theo, CJ Stroud is Geno Smith? Bryce Young is discount Kyler Murray? Those don't sound like slam dunk top 5 picks to me. And the answer is, well, they're not. All right? Both of these prospects are slightly flawed, and overall, there needs to be more pessimism when we're talking about draft prospects, okay? The big draft networks are going to tell you that Bryce Young is just Kyler Murray point blank, period. And they're going to tell you CJ Stroud is, I don't know, Justin Herbert or something. Just like they told you that Baker Mayfield was Drew Brees and Zach Wilson was the next Patrick Mahomes, all right? In reality, a lot of the top quarterbacks end up being bad, all right? That's just the plain fact of the matter. And we got to be a little bit more realistic with our player comparisons. At least that's what I think. So I think that both of these guys are good. And if you're a team like the Panthers and you need a franchise quarterback, you know, these guys are worth taking number 1 overall because I think they can be that. As far as which one do I prefer, I do prefer Bryce Young a little bit. I'm seeing him carry Alabama right now, whereas I view Stroud as a little bit more of a system guy. And when you're going to a terrible football team, which anyone taken first overall is, I prefer the skill set that I think makes everybody else around you better than the one that I think needs a little bit of supporting cast and needs a little bit of help to truly reach their true potential. I mean, that's true of everybody, but I think it's more true of Stroud than it is of Bryce Young. So that's where I'm at with it. I do think that these are both very good prospects. I think they're way better than anybody we saw last year, okay? And even of the quarterback class 2 years ago with Lawrence and Fields and Lance and Wilson, I think they might be better than anyone not named Lawrence from that class as a prospect. So they're still good and all that. They just might not be like these crazy flawless prospects that the draft machine will have you believe as we lead up to that night. But anyway, that's my opinion on the matter. I think they're both very close. I think they're both quite good. I prefer Young. I don't blame you if you prefer Stroud and his accuracy and all that. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope that you formed an opinion based on my opinion. And yeah, I will see you next week with another All-22 review. Leave ideas in the comments for what it might be. Yes, see you soon.